Okay, so the recording is going now. My name is Amy Richards, and hopefully everybody can hear me. If not, turn your volume up. And I already hear and I can't hear you. Can I get an I hear you from someone just so I know it's not a problem for everyone in the chat, please? Okay. So others can hear me. If you can't hear me, you just need to go to your volume settings and get yourself turned on. And if you go, it depends on where you've got your toolbar set up, but it's the mute. It looks like a microphone, and then you pick the speaker, and maybe it's just got the wrong speaker picked, and you should be able to mess around with that. Of course, you can't hear me say that. So, but hopefully they figure that out. I'm going to type it in here. Sorry, guys. Okay. My name is Amy Richards. I am a wife, mom, grandma, and I live down in Little Hurley, South Dakota, about 400 people, and we love it here. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I love numbers. And I've been using QuickBooks Desktop since 1995. And I've got notes on my left and a second monitor on my right, so I'm looking all over the place, but I am paying attention to you guys. And then I've been using QuickBooks Desktop since about 2014. And I love, QuickBooks Online since 2014. And I just really love the desktop version. I love its functionality, the ease of use. Online definitely has its purpose. It lets you share and collaborate easier. But so we're doing desktop today. Now, my version, I just wanted to say I am in version 2022 accountant's version. And so it may look slightly different than yours, especially if you're in an older version. And some of you may see this, and I wanted to point it out. I've got my icon bars here across the top, and some of you may be seeing this view where they're over here on the left. And I just like it the old school way. So I just wanted to point that out, why your screen may look different than mine. So I'm going to switch them back. And I always have my home screen open. And then I also always have, and it's always set up like this in every set of books that I do, I have my chart of accounts set up open. So as I'm working and doing something, I can glance over at the chart of accounts and I can see what I just did and how it affected, say, the checking or the accounts receivable at a glance. And so just a tip. I just really like it set up that way. Most of you have figured out I've got the chat on for you guys. So if you have a question, please send it my way. If I will do my best to answer verbally without taking the time to type. And then if we don't have time for all the questions, we'll circle back to them in the next session, or I'll get your email from Tammy, or we'll go from there. I'm recording this, and when it's all done, I will download the recording from the cloud, and I will send a link to Tammy to get out to you guys, so you have it as a reference if you want it. Okay, so all that set aside, here we go. The topic for today really is to get your sales recorded properly and get your deposits in properly. And for some of you who've been using the program for a long time, this might be a bit basic. If you're new to the program, hopefully you have some aha moments here, and it's helpful. So invoices and sales receipts are the two ways to record your income in QuickBooks. And we've got them down here: create sales receipt, create invoice. You can always use an invoice. That's never going to be a wrong choice. You can create the invoice, receive the payment, make the deposit. That's never the wrong flow. A sales receipt is really handy for someone who, say, walks into your office, buys a bundle of trees, pays cash up front or a check, and you just got the money. You can skip the step of creating the invoice and applying the payment, because with a sales receipt, it does it all in one. you're putting your customer in, you're putting how they paid, you can put their check number in here, and then you can save and close it. So it's a one-step process versus creating an invoice and then waiting for someone to pay and receiving the payment. Again, invoice is never wrong. Sales receipt only used if you have the money in hand and you're not waiting for payment, because that can mess up your books. If you create a sales receipt and then someone doesn't bring the money in for 2 months, you don't want to do that. So QuickBooks is really particular. Even if you understand bookkeeping and accounting, if you don't follow the flow in QuickBooks to get from point A to B to C to D, that's where you're going to run into problems and create those negative numbers where they shouldn't be. So I'm going to show you what happens when you do a sales receipt versus and not following the flow, and we'll get to that. Okay, so all of that, properly recording your income, use invoice, use a sales receipt, except when you get grant funds, some of you get county appropriations, co-op funds. You don't want to run those through an invoice or a sales receipt because they're not income. They're not earned income. You just want to record that as a deposit, and we'll get to that also. I'll be showing you all of this. So the whole point of this is that there's this great report up under report, excuse me, it's under vendors, sales tax liability. And right now, I don't have anything recorded because I haven't received any money. It will show you your sales and what you owe for tax. And I'm sure most of you use this when you're paying your sales tax. If you don't follow the flow in QuickBooks, the money's not going to end up on this report for you. So say I'm going to just do a sales receipt really quick, and I just made up some fake customers. So let's do Ed Smith buys. I'm going to do the previous month. I don't want to mess around with the month that isn't finished. And say he buys some bare root conifers. Buys 10 of them. And he is paying tax. And so here's this sales receipt. He walked into the office, bought them, recorded it. And so now I can go to that report, vendors, sales tax liability. And there's that sale I just recorded, showing me the $35 and the tax collected. And so I know that when I'm paying it to the state, I'm going to get it right because I recorded the sale right in QuickBooks. So, and it also is up here in the checking account. No, it's not because I haven't deposited. But I'm going to go back to that sales receipt. Hit previous. I want to get rid of it because I want to show you what happens when you don't do it the right way. Say he walks in, and I see this when I've helped some of you. You go just right to record deposit instead of a sales receipt, and you're doing it from there. So you pick your customer, Joe Brown. $90 for the sake of ease. And so you're recording this money that he brought in. It's going to hit your checking account because you're making a deposit. Hit save and close. Sorry, didn't do an account. That would be your sale income. So now it's up here in your checking account. But if you go to your vendor report, sales tax liability, it's not there. Because QuickBooks doesn't take anything from the make deposit screen that starts on the make deposit screen and put it in this report. The only way, and while I'm here, I'm going to delete this. I don't want to mess up what we're going to do later with that example. The only way to get it onto that sales tax report is to do your sales receipt or your invoice. Okay, so undeposited funds. And this was a big, when Tammy sent out the survey, a lot of you have questions about undeposited funds and why use it and what is it. It is an account that QuickBooks automatically puts into your chart of accounts, and you can't get rid of it. And it's super useful. Now, it's not in the state accounting manual that everyone has. So I usually just number it somewhere in the 1200s. So it sits up here by the banking information, but there it is, undeposited funds. I haven't received any money, so I have a zero balance in it right now. So I just wanted to show you if you, and this is where I will get questions too, is I'm making deposits, but I'm not seeing where they're going. And that's a good reason to use undeposited funds. For instance, I just opened up a sales receipt. I can enter the customer, and then I can pick where it's going to get deposited to at this point, because I don't have undeposited funds set as my primary deposit to account. So I could accidentally put it into savings, or I could accidentally put it into petty cash, and it remembers the last one you used. So if you accidentally do petty cash for one deposit, it's going to keep using that account and keep accidentally putting that money into that account until you notice the mistake and have to take the time to go back and fix all the deposits. I'm just going to close this. No, I do not want to record that. And then also the same thing can happen on the receive payment screen, the receive customer payment screen. When you don't have undeposited funds set as your primary account, you have this little option right here. And some of you, if you look, may have that. If you've got your QuickBooks open on a second computer. Again, you could, from the receive payment screen, customer payment screen, you could accidentally put it into the wrong account, and then it would be a little difficult to find. So to solve that problem, and I'm going to do this here, I've got mine unset, which, because I wanted to be able to show you guys that. If you go up to the edit menu, you can go to preferences. And I'll go a little slow in case you guys are doing this at the same time as me. And then I strongly encourage all of you, especially if you're new to the program, to go into the preferences, look at every single one. You can get down to the nitty gritty, whether you want it to place the decimal for you when you're typing in numbers, if you want time, like on a time card, to show up in minutes or decimals. There's just a lot of things you can do to customize it for yourself. Okay, so for the undeposited funds, I got my notes here so we go to the right place, because I've been using this for almost 30 years and I still have to poke around sometimes to find things, and that's okay. So go to edit, preferences, we've done that, and then we're going to go to payments. And there's nothing on the my preference tab, but in company preference, right here, we want to check mark use undeposited funds as a default deposit to account. Now, some of you in older versions, this might be somewhere else on the screen, but you will have that. And some of you might have this turned on already, which is great. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to say, okay. And it's going to tell me that it has to close all the windows to make this change. And it does do that with some preferences. The thing is, it doesn't open them back up for you. So if you do something where it does that, you just have to open back up what you had going. Okay, so now if I go to create a sales receipt, that's gone. I can't accidentally pick the wrong account. It's going to put this in the undeposited funds no matter what. Again, same thing with receiving a payment. That little box that was there is gone. It's going to all go into undeposited funds. So let's do a proper multi-check deposit and show you how that goes. Okay, so I'm going to go to my customers, set up a few fake ones here, excuse me. And we'll just start with Mr. Brown. And this is just me being super particular. And after years of doing this, I usually go to the customer screen. I click on the customer that I'm going to be receiving a payment for, so I can see all of their transactions. It just helps you catch things that you might not otherwise catch if you go to, if you go right to receive payments, because you're not seeing their customer history right there. And it's just an added extra way to make sure that things are getting done properly. So I'm going to go to Mr. Brown because he dropped off a check. I usually open the invoice. This is just me. It's just an extra click. And I just make sure everything looks okay before I receive the payment. In this case, I'm just going to say everything's proper. I do want to receive in February because I want to be working in the prior month just for the sake of example. So if you go to it from that, it has already filled in his name, it's filled in the amount, you can add a check number, it's already check marked, save and close. Just to show you, and then it shows his invoice with a 0 balance due, gives the little paid stamp. Older versions might not have that. Save and close. So here's Mr. Brown, he's got an invoice and a payment, so you can see his history. And I do, before I receive a few more, I just want to show you, now we have a balance in the undeposited funds account. And if you were to go to record deposits and you wanted to just do his, it's just sitting right there waiting for you. The newer versions have this nice count of how many checks, cash, and whatnot you've got in there, and the older versions don't have that. It's just a little update they did. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my customers. I'm gonna receive a payment from this box, open it, double check it, looks good, receive the payment. Save and close. Just doing everything on the same day here for ease. Now, to show you an invoice and sales receipt on the same one, I'm just going to do a quick sales receipt for Mr. Green. So I can go to new transaction, sales receipt, because let's say he just stopped by and paid cash, and he bought some deciduous trees, bought 50, ordered 50 of them. And I've got sales tax set for Hurley because that's where I'm at. So that's just what I used. Okay. So again, save and close, got some cash here. And then I'm going to make a mistake here on purpose that we're going to have to deal with later. And this will lead us into fixing a deposit that has been reconciled. So I'm going to say the Hanson Family Farm sent in a down payment for their machine plant of $1,000, except I'm in a big rush and I'm not on this screen, and I go to receive payments instead. I know that Ed Smith has a machine plant too, so I just got that in my head and I'm not thinking, let's say. And so I put that $1,000, it was really Hanson Family Farm. I applied it to Ed Smith. And so here's his, it's just $3,900 machine plant. Correct date. And so I hit save and close. So now I've done 4 items. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna run these to the bank. So I hit record deposit. It's gonna have them all listed there for you. So you can have your deposit slip that's gonna go to the bank, and the deposit that's gonna show on your bank statement match what's in QuickBooks, and it makes reconciling so much easier because you're not having to add up these deposits go together to match what shows on the bank statement. So I'm depositing all 4. And I say, okay. And let's say I deposited the next day. And I'm going to put it in checking. Here is where you can change the account. There's still the potential to put it in the wrong place. But the system at this point has done the best it can to get you to the right place to put it in the right account. And if you happen to accidentally put it into the savings account, I'll do that here just to show you. Save and close. You go, wait a minute. I made a deposit. My checking account should have a balance, but it doesn't. You're like, oh, put it into savings. It's just an easy fix. Just open up the savings account, take a look at it. If you double click in the little cell below the date, it will open up the transaction for you. And it's not reconciled. And so you can just change it. It's going to give you a warning. And that's okay that you're changing it to a different account, and just hit save and close. And now it's up in your checking account and it matches what went into the bank exactly. Okay, so let me check my notes here. Okay, so at this point, I just wanted to show you sales tax liability. It's got the non-taxable machine plant. It's got the stuff, the bare root trees that we sold. It's going to give you your taxable sales, your non-taxable sales, all properly recorded, and the tax that you're going to owe to the state. So there was a question, and it was a question that I hadn't thought of, but some people were having questions about how to apply, how to deposit grant funds, county appropriation, and then that in my head, I think of it as the rebate that you get to, like, for going to classes at leadership. So let's do that. You can just go to record deposits. And that's where you want to go when you're recording something outside of sales. You want to just run it straight through the deposit screen. So we're going to receive, let's see, let's do Turner County is my home county. So we'll do Turner County. And we'll do county appropriation income. Let's say they're giving us $5,000 for the year. It's as simple as that. It's going to record it. It will not hit, go to vendors, sales tax liability. That $5,000 is nowhere on my sales tax report. It is in my county appropriations income and will show up on my profit and loss. You can do the same thing for grants you might be receiving, and then also your, and you can group them. I'm going to show you that. For deposit, I'll go back to this Turner County one. Let's say I got my leadership money. Now I want to talk about this. So you go to leadership, you have lodging, registration, fuel to get there, meals, all expenses that you have in your chart of accounts, and you know how to record those. Some of you I know we're taking that, I think it was $335 this last time around. We're taking that and applying it against those expenses. And that's okay if you did that. But proper accounting procedure is to take something like that $335 and put it in an income account. It's not earned income, so you're not putting it into an invoice or a sales receipt. But that's just a proper accounting. And so what I was doing for the districts that I keep books for is I was using the miscellaneous, the 4,500 account, making a note of what it was and depositing it. That way, at the end of the year, if you're looking at your profit and loss, you can clearly see how much you spent on, say, your lodging, registration, fuel, meals for conferences for the year, without having to open it up and see what was offset against it. And then that income is a separate line item above. It's the same theory as your grant income goes up above and your grant expenses go down below. It all nets out to the same thing, but it gives you a clear picture of what's going on. So that's just how I've been doing it. Okay, so I'm going to save this because I want this deposited. Yes, I want to change, I want to bump that deposit up by that amount. Okay, so now to get to kind of the main show here is fixing a deposit that has been reconciled. I'm going to need to quickly reconcile the account. Normally you would have your bank statement, you would be putting in, you'd have a beginning balance, you'd be putting your ending balance in from your bank statement. I don't have any of that because this is all just pretend. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at my checking account and just put the ending balance in because I have no expenses. Have it be the end of February and hit continue. Here's the two deposits that we did as an example. I'm just going to check them so I can get the account fully reconciled. Now. Normally I always print the detail of the reconciliation report and file it with the bank statement. It's good record keeping. In this case, I'm just going to hit close. I don't need to print this out. So let's say it's now first week of March. I want to see who owes me money. So I'm going to go up to reports. I'm going to go to receivables. I'm going to go to my AR aging summary. And I'm going to take a look, see if I need to remind anybody of anything. And I see Hanson Family Farm at 2,500, but I'm like, wait, I know they sent $1,000. Why does it still show that they owe 2,500? So I have to go figure out my mistake. So let's say I take the time to look around and I figure out that I accidentally applied that $1,000 to the Smith planting, and I want to change it. Well, it's not going to let me because it's been reconciled. So here are the steps to getting that fixed. And when we get all done with these steps, I have a Word document. I'll go up and we'll go through them again. And then I will put that in the chat really quick. And you can save it if you want as a reference for future. If you put a document in chat, you actually have to open it up and save it yourself. It doesn't automatically download into like your documents or downloads. Okay. So I am going to go to checking, and I'm like, well, it's this deposit that's wrong. You can get to it by going to checking and opening it up there, or you can always go to your deposits and scroll backwards with your previous button. And here's the one. I'm like, I know I messed up Ed Smith, and so I need to get that off of there. And the only way to do that is to delete the deposit. They really don't want you to delete deposits. So there's not even a delete button here on this screen. You have to go to the edit menu and go to delete deposit. It's going to tell me that it's going to warn me, and I know I want to do it even though it's warning me. So I'm going to say, okay, that deposit is now gone, and the amounts are back here. The incorrect one is back here. So we need to get rid of that. So first step is to figure out which deposit you need to correct, make a note of it, circle it on your bank statement so you know which one you're working with, and then delete it. Now we need to make any necessary changes. And so I'm going to go to customers. I'm going to go to Mr. Smith. There's that $1,000. At this point now, I can mess around with this payment because we took it off of the deposit. I can do two things. I can fully delete this. I can just hit delete here and start over and go and receive a payment, or you can just change the name. And I know this needs to go to Hanson Family Farm. So now I've got Hanson Family Farm, $1,000. It did uncheck it, so I do need to check mark it. And it's going to take that 1,000 and apply it for me and leave the balance due over here. And same date and save and close. And it's just telling me that it's going to change it, and that's fine. It gives you lots of warnings. So if I go back to my 4 items here, they're still there, except this time it's the Hanson Family Farm and it's correct. And so I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to say, okay, the deposit amount is the same amount and same date, going to checking, save and close. Now, you would think, oh, I'm done. Okay, I got it back in the bank. It's correct. There's a one last step because this one is reconciled. This one is not now. And so you need to re-reconcile. And so just go back to your reconcile button. It automatically advances you to the end of the next month. So you're going to have to, if you ever have to undo something that's been reconciled, you're going to have to go and grab this date and switch it back to the previous month. And then again, I'm just going to reference the checking account to get my ending balance, 69, but you'd be pulling this off the bank statement. And the only thing I should be seeing is that one item that I messed with. I'm going to hit continue. There it is. So all I have to do is check it. My difference is back to 0 and hit reconcile now. I don't want to print any reports. And now in my checking account, I can see with the little check mark that I'm fully re-reconciled as of the end of February. So that would be how you correct a deposit. And I'm going to pull that up here real quick. Sorry. I am getting there, I promise. Okay. Okay, can someone, it is acting funky on me here. Can someone let me know if you're seeing the reconciliation? Okay, good, thank you. Okay. So, and, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not gonna put this in the chat. I'm just gonna get this to Tammy at the end, and she can just send out the attachments to you in a group email. It'd be easier for you to save them than trying to save them out of chat. So here are your steps. So you'll have this as a reference if you ever need to unreconcile. Okay, so this is the reason I wanted to show you this. This is my big tip. You can probably avoid all of this if before you reconcile at the beginning of the month and before you pay your sales tax, if you run your AR aging report, you can catch mistakes. You can see if you have negative numbers where you shouldn't. You can glance at who owes you what, and you'll notice if you misapplied a payment. It's just a good double check. So I recommend, and I do that. I always look at the AR report before I reconcile and before I pay sales tax, because it can save you the trouble of having to go through this process. I'm going to go back to QuickBooks. So if you just go to your reports and your receivables and your AR aging, at a glance, you're going to find things that are wrong. If you have a negative number over here, there's probably an issue. If you have a name that's showing up, but it has a zero balance, that's a whole other issue we'll get to in another session. But so this is just a good tool to look at before you even do your reconciliation. That way you can fix deposits before they're reconciled. Okay, let me switch my notes here. Okay, so I was emailing with Kristen yesterday and she goes, what about petty cash? And I'm like, that's great. I didn't even enter my mind to talk about that while doing deposits. So we'll do a petty cash. I'm gonna go back to my customers. Say Ann Thomas comes in and pays in cash. So I'm gonna open it up, make sure, oh, I spelled dogwood wrong. Just make sure it's the right thing. And then I'm going to receive payments. And then she paid $186.38. She paid cash. And let's just do it in the next month because we're not going to worry about reconciling hers. Okay, save and close. And she's fully paid. Save and close. Get out of customer screen. So now you've got this record deposit, but you want to put it into your cash box to make change at your tree sale. So all you have to do is select it, say okay, and up here where you can pick where you're going to deposit to, you just need to hit petty cash and the date, obviously, and then save and close. And there's your money in petty cash instead of in your checking account. And then as you use it, buy stamps, buy bags for trees, whatever you're buying. If you're pulling some money out of petty cash, just record it in the petty cash register directly, or you can go to the write check screen and change it to petty cash. And it will still properly record your expenses. It's just coming out of your petty cash instead of your checking account. Okay, so this was, I still have a few more things I'm going to touch on, but this was really I know for those of you who have been using QuickBooks, probably kind of a basic talk. Are there any questions? Okay. So the question is, what about when they give you a 20, but the amount was $18.90 and they don't want change? Good question. Okay. You would go to, let's just do that. Okay. Let's go to Terry Green. New sales receipt. So 18, we'll go exactly with the chat question, 1890. Oh, 1890. See if I can get it. Nope. Okay, so say it's 1889 and they give you a 20. Save and close because we're recording the sale properly. Now the customer screen. And I'm sorry, I know my keyboard comes across really loud on the recording. So record deposits. You're going to do the 1889 for the sale. And then underneath here, you can put Mr. Green again. And you could, I would do miscellaneous income. I would call it a donation because they don't want change. And then you would make that the what, $1.11 to get to 20. That's how you would do that. So you would do the sales receipt for the proper amount or invoice. Then you would get to the deposit screen. Then you add it in there, and then it's not going to checking, it's going to petty cash. And you hit save and close. And here in your petty cash, you've got the 20 bucks you're throwing into the till, the sale recorded properly, and that extra $1.11 is just, it's not taxed, it's a donation, it's just going into your miscellaneous income. It was a great question, thank you. Does anybody need to see that again or have any other questions on getting deposits recorded or making corrections? I picked this session first because it was just, it's a foundation. If you're getting your sales in properly and getting the deposits in properly and paying your sales tax properly, it's a foundation for everything else. And so I do have two things to show you here about sales tax. And I am not going to talk on sales tax because I know you guys get a nice presentation at leadership that you can go to from the Department of Revenue. I just wanted to show you. No, it won't. It won't show credit on Mr. Green's account. Because it didn't go through the sales receipt or the income. It was just on the make deposit screen. If you do something on the make deposit screen, even if you reference their name, it doesn't go back to their customer information. And that is where I've seen a lot of districts get in trouble, is they think that if they're doing something on the make deposit screen and referencing the name, that it's going to come back into here, into their information. It doesn't. Okay, I've got another question. Does a receipt print when you do a sales receipt? You can absolutely print it. Like the one we just did for Mr. Green. You could just open it up and you can just print it right from there. So yes, you can always print a copy of the sales receipt for them. Yes. And you can also, if you have his email, you can save it as a PDF and email it out also. Or if you're in your tree shed and using like Hotspot and you've got a printer set up, that works too. You can just print them out, receipts on paper. Okay, I will watch for more questions and then I'm going to go show you guys this. This is an oldie but a goodie. I started working with conservation districts probably, oh goodness sakes, over a decade ago. And this I got, I don't even know if it's still around anymore, but it really clearly, it's from the Department of Revenue. It really clearly states what is taxable and what is not taxable for conservation districts and the work that you're doing. And it's just a really handy reference point if you're new and you don't know what you should be taxing and what you shouldn't. And I highly recommend that you hit that Department of Revenue talk. And then there's also the newer version. And it's called landscaping. It's the Department of Revenue site. I thought I had that ready to go, but I don't. So, but I'll link those to Tammy and she can send out a group email. Go back to QuickBooks. Okay. Okay, Kristen. Kristen is awake. Can you go back to what is taxable? Yes. Well, I'll send that out to I'll send it out, but just in a nutshell, obviously your trees that you're selling out of your tree shed are taxable no matter what product that you're selling at. Some of you may sell like plant skid at your tree sale. You may have like your tree tubes out, fabric by the foot. Everything at your tree sale is taxable. Anything that you're doing on ag, income producing ag land is not taxable. So if you're drilling, shelter belt, in machine plant and installing tubes, whatever, you're not charging tax on that if it's income producing ag land. And if it's just an acreage, and they have no ag land, if it's just an acreage, just a house on 2 acres, then the work that you go out to do there is taxable at the, because they're going to be outside of city limits or whatever, it's taxable at the state rate of 4.5%. I will have those documents in an email, and then also again recommend going to Department of Revenue talk. Okay, so another question. Can you type up the steps for overpayment of a cash sale? The steps. Okay, yes, I will. I'm going to make myself a note. Cash sale overpayment. And I will type up those steps. And I will send that to Tammy also, and she can get that out to you guys, along with how to undo a reconciliation or redo it. We'll make sure we get you guys that. Okay, so I just want to show you to wrap this up because I want you guys to get to your day and get going unless there are more questions. I am going to show you kind of my game plan going forward for our next session. So let me get to that. Okay, this is today, so we can ignore that one. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So, and I would love your guys' opinion on this. I really would. I know you're getting really busy right now coming up with your tree sales and gearing up for machine plants. I thought I would skip April and May as you get really busy and pick it back up in June. But I'm not sure what the CRP deadlines are this year for like getting drilling done. I should have looked that up. I thought the next session I've got handling down payments made in a prior year and how to not have them show an income in that prior year and record them properly. And then overpayments, underpayments, refunds, there's all kinds of scenarios there that we can go through. When to just straight up adjust an invoice versus when to use a credit memo, and also some tips on cleaning up your accounts receivable report. Third session I would propose talking about, and this is the deep end stuff here, is talking about fixed assets, buying them, selling them, trade values, accumulated depreciation. That is going to be a QuickBooks lesson wrapped up with an accounting lesson for you guys. You are expected to do a lot. You wear a lot of hats, and that's a deep topic. I will, that's why I didn't start with it. And then for the fourth session, I've got all the employee stuff. There were lots of questions about possible garnishments, getting healthcare set up properly, all that stuff, child support, how to do additional withholding. And then I was going to touch on board payroll and make sure you're getting that right. And then the last session would be just to clean up. I have June 28th is the last day of leadership training. So you guys are going to be gone here. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I can adjust this, absolutely. And then for the last one, I've got touching back on any previous topics. We'll have Tammy send out a survey. And then I've got just a lot of random kind of a few minute topics, just that questions that people had and things that I want to show you. And so that's kind of the schedule. Okay, so you guys are going to be gone on leadership on June 28th. So I will update that and I will pick a different day for that. So other than that, if anybody like really wants to see the employee stuff before you start hiring seasonally, I can get that put together faster. We could do it, goodness, you know, in a week and a half or so. That can be something maybe in the group email for Tammy, but I'll for sure change the June 28th and keep everything else as is. Let me get out of here. So I think that's it, guys. Are there any last questions before we wrap it up? I hope this was helpful. I really do. I am not a public speaker. And so I spend all day with my head in my books. And I know this was probably basic for some of you, but we'll get into the deeper, more complicated stuff as we go on. So okay, I'm appreciating all the texts or the chats that are coming through. Thank you, guys. And like I said, actually, as soon as we finish this up, I'll wait for the video to upload, and I'll get everything to Tammy that we had talked about. So I am going to stop the recording